cavity or its contents or its tissues. Who's pre-dental in here? You guys must have given me some answers. Okay. What else, guys? What else? Teeth. Yeah, absolutely. Tongue, teeth. What else? You folks that are going to go into dentistry, when you're working on a patient's oral cavity, what do you have to be siphoning up?
Saliva.
Yeah. So you talk about what? Saliva produced by what? Salivary gland. Okay. Right. And the whole time, right? Okay. All right. Oh, folks, let me. Oops, sorry. Before I start, you want to add this to your checklist. Make sure you answer that. There's, I think of one of your images. I think it's 11.3. 11.3, if I'm not mistaken. 11.3. Why is there an annual? I can recall. We're going to continue at this. 11.3. The lingual glands. Because I know that I didn't. So you want to add lingual, just one item, or you're really going to add one more term, lingual glands. Let me make double sure of that, yes. And it's an 11. Because I had to assign you a figure 11.3, but I didn't, I'm sorry, that wasn't it. That wasn't it. 11.3. I think it was. Hold on a second. It was. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, lingual glands, that's right, actually posterior. I'm sorry, it's figure 11.6, I think. Is that on your checklist, folks? Reference figure 11.6 on your checklist? It is? Okay. Because I had assigned you 11.6, yet I had nothing there for the reference. So you have your lingual glands. Actually, to be more specific, I think they're called the posterior lingual glands. Just add that to your test books. That's all you want to add in terms of figure 11.6, okay? The lingual glands. Okay, thank you. That's all. Okay, so let's move on. So just add that to your checklist, lingual glands. So you have your oral cavity. We're looking at the tongue, okay, and some of its components. And of course, oops, let me go back a little bit, folks. Now, let's take a closer look at the tongue. We're looking at the surface of the tongue, folks, or the dorsal of the tongue. You have some projections, and here they are, folks. You have this right here. And you have these right here, folks. These are called the filiform papillae. I think that's on your checklist, I'm almost certain. The little filiforms. These are like hair-like. They actually resemble like hairs. Anybody here own a cat? Anybody own a cat? Nobody here owns a cat. Nobody? Anybody own a cat? Anybody ever been licked by a cat?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right. Well. Wait, who said gross?
It's like sandpaper.
Oh, well, okay, hold on, Jennifer, hold on a minute. Yeah, okay. It's like sandpaper, but compared to a dog.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd rather be licked by a cat any day.
No.
Why so? Because the dog will slobbering, right? Okay. Versus a cat, because of its filiform papillae, will just give you nice little little massage, right? Right? Okay, so the filiform papillae are kind of like elongated. They're hairs. Now then you have these others that are kind of like shaped like mushrooms, a little flat at the surface. These are the fungiform papillae. These are the fungiform papillae. You can see them right here. Okay, and of course, then let me go back to this image here, folks. Then you have towards the back of the tongue, which I will demonstrate very shortly. You have the circumvallate papillae. There you go. The circumvallate papillae, which is back here. Okay, it actually forms like a V, the back of the tongue. Okay, so you have, and they're actually rather large. So you have all the little filiforms up towards the front scratch of the tongue. Then you have the fungiforms, and then towards the back you have these V-shaped, so-called circumvallate papillae. Okay, all right, and that's the close of the tongue slide. And then now you're looking here at like the tonsillar, lingual tonsils, folks, and you have the spaces in between here. Okay. Now let's move on. Now you're looking here at an image indicating a tooth. Okay. Whoops. And folks, we're talking about the enamel. Okay. Of course, a developing tooth. We're focusing here. You have enamel. That's considered the. What is the enamel considered in the human body, folks? The hardest what? The hardest what? Substance in the human body, folks. The enamel. The enamel is the hardest substance in the human body. Then of course you work your way down below the enamel, you have the what? Dentin, okay? Folks, in terms of tissue-wise, the dentin is the reason why you need to have, if you happen to visit the dentist and you happen to have erosion of your enamel, okay folks, what happens if you expose air to the dentin? What happens if you expose air to dentin? Pardon? Yeah, it makes you levitate out of your seat, right? Right? You ever had that happen? That they're lying in the dental chair and then they go, or anybody have a hole in their tooth, right? You have a cavity there and then you go, well, that's the reason why you because of the dentin, you need to have, what's that called? They give you to numb you.
Novocaine?
Novocaine, okay? All right, and of course below the dentin you have pre-dentin, then you have your so-called odontoblast, okay? So that's showing you the histology of a developing tooth. Okay, then working our way down, you have your esophagus, your stomach, and and some of the components. Now, we're talking about here. No, folks, that's the pacemaker of the guy right here. So don't pay mind to that. I tried to kill it, but I failed. Okay. Anyway, didn't work out. Okay, so now we're looking here at the wall of an esophagus. Okay. So, folks, the main focal points here in the esophagus are the following. You want to focus on knowing your layers. So going from the inside towards the outside, you have mucosa, then you have what, guys? Submucosa, then you have what? Muscularis, and then you have your what? Adventitia. So that's the layering arrangement in a given gut tube, okay? Going from the inside towards the outside, you have mucosa. Now keep in mind, folks, in the mucosa, you're going to have a slight layer of smooth muscle called the muscularis mucosae. Okay, right at the bottom, or the end of the terminal aspect of the mucosal layer is a border, a boundary, known as the muscularis mucosae. Okay, you see that's an area of smooth muscle, and of course below that is when then you have the submucosa. Then you have your muscularis externa, and we all know that's pretty much smooth muscle. You have circular layer, longitudinal layer. Now folks, notice how in the gut wall you have a circular layer first, that's on the inner part. On the outer part you have your longitudinal layer. Now that is of significance when we talk about other organs, and I'll get to that shortly, okay? And of course the outermost part being the adventitia. Okay, so looking at the wall of the stomach, histology of the stomach, you have you have the gastric pits. Right over here, you have some gastric pits or gastric glands. Then you have these so-called parietal cells. Okay, what do they secrete, guys? Anybody know? HCl. Very good. Hydrochloric acid, HCl. Okay. And guys, remember, whatever I address in class, be aware of it, at least know basic function or secretions of some of these items. What do the chief cells produce?
Pepsin, right?
Oh, pepsinogen, that's correct. Pepsinogen or digestive enzyme. Pepsinogen, that's correct. Okay. All right. So be aware that you have your little parietal cells. These are the red ones, and then you have these purplish stained ones being the chief cells or zygomatic cells. Okay. Let's move on. So that's the wall of the stomach. Then we have the small intestine. Okay, to look at. And then we're looking here at a section of the intestinal wall. Now, folks, look here. Plica circularis, okay, that's a fancy term for a circular fold. Circular fold, okay? And of course, you have, here's one circular fold right here. This entire thing is one circular fold. And then you can appreciate its histology. And then you have some spaces in between the villi, all these little projections called villi. And then, of course, you have their histology or the epithelium. Okay, and of course, again, look here, you have the muscularis externa, you have the arrangement of the musculature here. Remember, the boundary here, you have this very thin line of smooth muscle right below the epithelium. That's the muscularis mucosae. Okay? All right, that's the intestinal wall. Now, zooming into some of the glands, you have your enteroendocrine glands. You have that, and then you have these so-called Paneth cells. Anybody know, can recall what the enteroendocrine glands produce or secrete? for the purpose. Ever heard of gastrin? Anybody ever had the butterflies in their stomach? You're about to take a test and then you feel like there's things fluttering in your stomach, folks?
Yeah.
What is that? Well, the reason why you have it, that's overactivity of these so-called endocrine glands, enteroendocrine glands. Or ever heard the term, a person have a what? Have a gut feeling? Folks, it's understood and perceived that the stomach has what's called an enteric brain. It has its own brain, okay? Don't start running to find an X-ray and say, I don't see a brain in the stomach. You guys get the picture, okay? There's this called having the enteric brain is because of these enteroendocrine cells. Then, of course, you have these pannate cells, and what do they secrete? Anybody know what this is? Lysozyme. What is that? So somebody not. What's lysozyme?
Breaks them down.
Breaks down.
Anyone want to think?
Can't spit it out. It's okay. Do you have it on the tip of your papillae? Okay, I'll give it. Okay, folks, this has bacteriostatic properties. Okay, bacteriostatic properties. It exerts its effects on the wall of bacteria. Okay, that's the function or the purpose of the so-called lysozyme, secreted by these so-called little pannate cells that you see here. Okay, so let's move on. I don't want to spend too much time on this. And then here's a picture showing you again the wall of the intestine, showing you these little pyrus patches, areas where you have lymphatic nodules. Okay, let's move on, folks. Let's go on down to the liver. Liver and pancreas. What we got here, folks, here's a section of liver. Of course, once you see that gaping hole, you're looking at the central vein, okay, of the lobular, folks. What you're seeing here is an image of lobules. Your liver is partitioned into lobes, and these are segments of those lobes known as lobules. And they're actually, in terms of shape, they're what? I think they're hexagonal in shape. They're hexagonal in shape, these lobules, okay, as you see. And then, of course, once you're now you're zooming in a little further, then what you see here in the edges of the lobules, you'll see a portal vein, a branch of you see the bile ducts. You also see what else, guys? Hepatic arteries, okay? That's known as the what? Portal what?
Excuse me.
Portal triad. Okay. And anytime you come across the term the portal triad, that pays reference to a hepatic artery, a branch of the portal vein, and the bile ducts, okay, and they're all actually all kind of like all together, always at these corners of these lobules, okay. I have a model of that you guys, I'll pull out so you guys can take a look at after I'm done with my discussion here.